lack the words to communicate to people how big this is. You have
Huge.
the governor of the Bank of England and the president of France declaring the end of Western hegemony and predicting the failure of the dollar as reserve currency. Now, talk about a reverberation. That's a reverberation that could take how many years does it take for that to reverberate?
A lot of that is dependent, I think, on what happens with Brexit, how it happens, and what Europe's response is. Because there's some things that we need to mention once we get to that. But
Right.
I'm not seeing a coherent enough picture in Europe, particularly in France. You know, Macron's one to talk. I'm not seeing a coherent enough picture coming out of Europe to suggest that the euro could move into a reserve currency status anytime soon. The biggest problem with the dollar as a reserve currency is, like you say, it has been politicized and weaponized. And if you can't have a reserve currency status work when it's being weaponized,
Right.
like it has been. But there's no replacement. So it's reserved by default. That has to change in terms of America's strategic thinking. It can't play the same sanctions game if it wants to keep the reserve currency status. So that's the big if there. The only alternative on the world stage right now that does appear as a challenge to the dollar would be the euro, precisely because no one trusts the Chinese. But Europe is such a mess because of the Brexit business and a bunch of other stuff. But we'll get back to that, because I think there's things in the work in Europe that people need to be aware of before they jump on the euro bandwagon.
Right. Oh, yeah. No.
Things. Yeah.
I agree. I mean, here's the funny thing, that I was so stunned by Carney's speech. It's almost like he didn't understand financial systems. In other words, no currency can work without trust.
It's the producers.
Right. So a financial system is a subsection of a governance system.
Mm-hmm.
And if no one trusts the governance system, there's no currency system that can work. And
Right.
we're out and about saying cybersecurity is going off the charts. These systems aren't safe. They don't
Right.
work. This is being hacked. That's being hacked. We have ransomware here, ransomware there. But you want us to move our entire global currency system onto these systems, which are,
Ain't going to happen.
well, but, you know, we have an invisible governance system that we don't understand. But given
Right.
what's happening, we don't trust it. And we've
And they're
got,
going to compound it by going to crypto.
and can you run an entire global currency system by force and mind control? I can't envision a way that could work.
No, I can't either.
Right.
I can't either. And that's the problem that they're facing. And I think Europe is coming up with an interesting solution. We might as well talk about it now, since we're talking about it. This business of a common European military.
Well, and they just created a European Union Defense Ministry.
Right. But what really intrigued me about what they said in terms of the sphere of influence that they were trying to create this military for was that they were going to target Africa
Resources.
as the resources. And you've got all of those old colonial interests, France.
Right, but they're also going to make sure the immigrants don't come.
Precisely.
Right.
Precisely.
The immigrants stay in Africa.
Right.